I got it going and we're live. So welcome everyone to another weekly cooking demo where I usually cook cheap, easy, nutritious, and delicious vegan dinners. But today I have a dessert because I felt like it. I've been eyeballing this recipe for a few weeks and my partner Frank has been also asking for this particular treat. And so finally we're gonna make it. And it's a recipe that's near and dear to my heart because before I was vegan, I used to bake cakes and cookies and desserts, and I had perfected all these recipes. And some of them I've gone back to make just as good vegan, but this one I haven't gotten into. So today we are making chocolate chip cookies with a couple of twists to the recipe. So I'm excited to share that with you. So a couple of non-traditional ingredients. One of them I used to actually secretly put in my chocolate chip cookies, and then it's also in this recipe, so I'm really excited. And we're using a product I think I've shown you guys before. It's the PC butter alternative. It's non-salted, and you want to start, we're just diving in. I'm not going to show you all the ingredients. Chocolate chip recipe ingredients are common, and I'll show them to you as we go along. So you want the butter to be a little bit cold. I may have messed up and made this not let this butter defrost enough, but you want it to be a little bit cold and not completely solid or completely too hard. And you're going to need 1 cup of this butter. So it just looks like a normal hard lump of butter. And we're actually going to cut it in cubes and try not to make a giant mess of ourselves. So you're just going to cut that up. And it doesn't have to be in exact cubes. So if you just want to slice it into little pieces as you put it into your bowl and get nice and messy, you can do that. Or you can cut it with a knife and fork if you really want to. So you want to start with this cold butter because it'll help the cookie keep its shape when it cooks. Some recipes will get you to make the cookies and then put the dough in the fridge for a little bit, but if you just start off with the cold butter, you don't have to wait around for that. But this recipe needs a higher temperature in the oven, so you want to do that. You want to set that up first. So it's 410 for this recipe, and you're going to cook it for a very short period of time, which I don't think chocolate chip cookies normally have a long cooking time, but this is short at 410. So let's get all our butter in here, and then I'm going to have to wipe my hands off because it is messy. Done. 1 cup of butter chopped up, messy hands. And then the next thing we need to do is prepare the ingredient that's going to hold all this together. So if you're not vegan, you might be putting chicken's eggs into this, but we're going to do a flax egg. So I've done this before on a demo, but you want to get some ground flax seeds. And if you buy them in bulk, they can get stale. So a tip is to actually keep the jar of ground flax in your fridge and it'll last a lot longer. If you're not someone that bakes a lot, it's a good idea. So in order to make a flax egg, we're going to mix the dry flax with some water. So you're going to need 2 tablespoons of flax to 6 tablespoons of water, which I'm going to have to do live out of the sink because I didn't prepare. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have our 6 tablespoons of water, and you just want to give it a little stir, but it's going to clump together. So right now it just looks liquidy and weird, but if you let it sit even a few minutes, you're going to see that it comes together like a gel, and it will actually get the consistency of chicken eggs for you. So we're going to set that aside. That's our ground flax egg. When you're cooking with flax eggs, they're good for baking or some types of savory cooking, but you can't use a flax egg straight for a chicken's egg in every recipe. So if you look online, there's a lot of little infographics on what recipes and what things and different substitutes for eggs when you're doing vegan cooking. Flax eggs, you can even use applesauce, pumpkin puree. There's a whole slew of things that you can use. Anyway, you want to get that set up fairly soon. And then our butter is getting a little bit warmed up in here. And now, like any traditional cookie recipe, we need sugar, probably a lot of sugar, but hey, we're making cookies. So 1 cup of brown sugar is going to go in. And then we need just 1/2 cup of white sugar. If you don't like to eat regular processed white sugar, you can use like a coconut sugar or any kind of lighter sugar, because the brown sugar is going to give you a different texture and flavor, and then you need a bit of a more fine textured sugar, but it doesn't have to be the grocery store white stuff if you don't want it to be. And now is the fun part, because I'm not using a hand mixer. You could use a hand mixer at this point, but the butter is really cold. So we're gonna mush it. And I got this little tiny potato masher from my dad. I was gonna say a few weeks ago, but probably a few months ago. So we're just gonna fluff it up until it's all combined. But again, we want the butter to stay cool. So you don't want to take a shortcut and make this warm just so you can mix it easier. But if you have a stand mixer or a KitchenAid mixer, which I do in the back, sort of in the background, you can't really see, but I didn't want to pull it out just for cookies. Plus it's extremely loud, which is not good when you're doing a live cooking demo. I don't know if it's better than mushing this live on TV, but less loud for sure. So you just want to get the sugars fairly integrated, but if you have sort of medium-ish sized chunks of butter that are not actually incorporated, that's okay, because we're going to keep mixing this as we add ingredients, and you'll get it mixed up just fine, so you don't have to be perfect. So I have a couple of big ones there. Oh. Okay, here we go. Done. So you're looking for that consistency, and because the butter is cold, it is going to be quite stiff in there. So that's that. And then what we want to do, this is the weird secret ingredient that I've never heard of before in chocolate chip cookies, but we already taste tested and it's delicious. So you won't believe it, but it's tahini. So tahini is sesame paste. So sesame seeds ground down, and it does have a lot of oils in it, and it tends to chunk up at the bottom. So make sure you shake it really well. And this is another thing in my kitchen that frustrates me just like maple syrup, because no matter how careful I am, it gets everywhere. Anyway, we're going to give it a go. So you want to get tahini, and it's going to be liquid. So you can keep this in your cupboard. Don't keep this in your fridge. And we're going to put a whole half cup in. And it just gives it this amazing, a little bit salty, but like really rich flavor. So we're going to add that in, and I'm going to let the measuring cup sit, and yeah, got my stupid container dirty, of course. So we're going to let that drain out. I'm going to grab my little spatula, my cool little wooden spatula that Frank made, and we're going to scrape that all out. So there's our tahini, and then vanilla, traditional flavors for chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to put a full capful, which to my eyeball is about a teaspoon, so that's how much you need. Sometimes I find if you put too much vanilla, sometimes it can overshadow it. And then now we're going to add our flax egg. So you can see on the top a little bit, I don't want to tip it, the water is sitting on the top. So the longer you let this sit, the better. So if I wasn't doing a cooking demo, I would probably let it sit for like 10 minutes. So I would do this even before I preheat the oven, before I start all this stuff. I would do the flax egg first. But you can see that the rest of it is starting to get that consistency. And then when this bakes out, it just holds everything together perfectly, just like using any old traditional ingredients. So we're going to put that all in. And that rinses out just fine. I'm going to move my stir stick over here somewhere. And then we're going to keep using our little masher. Again, if you had a KitchenAid, I would do the KitchenAid on low. And even if I was using a hand mixer, just really low, because you don't want to get the butter like super soft, right? You want it to still be a bit cold. And I see the chat going. Actually, my dad's online. His birthday is next Monday, so I'm going to say happy birthday in advance. And another important birthday today is my little sister Stephanie's birthday is today. So happy birthday to those two people. And anyone else out there watching, happy birthday to you. Okay, so we're gonna clean our little masher. That's the only thing, the masher gets the dough stuck in it, but we have a ton of dough, so it doesn't matter. Now we have all our wet ingredients, and then now we're gonna do our dry ingredients. So this recipe that I found usually asks for half and half regular flour and cake flour. So cake flour is slightly different, holds together a little bit differently, but you can make your own. So don't go and buy specialized cake flour. I'll show you how to do it. But the recipe that the ingredient we're gonna sub into it to make it a cake flour consistency is cornstarch. So I have my jar of cornstarch here. And that is what I used to use in my recipe to help my cookies hold their shape, because for me, I prefer like a fluffy cookie rather than a thin type of cookie, and cornstarch will do that. And actually, coincidentally, the flax egg is also going to help that. So we have 3 cups of regular flour here. And then to make something cake flour, you're going to take out, let me find a bowl here. You're going to take out sort of 2 heaping tablespoons out, because we don't want to mess up the volume, right? You don't want to add more dry ingredients because you'll mess up the texture of your cookie. So we're taking out 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Or sorry, take out 2 tablespoons of flour, and you're going to put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch in. And they can be a little bit heaping because this is a big recipe. You want to make sure that these cookies hold their texture because we're making them big. So the next thing we want to add is 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So this is a baking powder container for anyone calling me out, but I have written baking soda on it because I wanted to reuse the container. And you're going to do 1 teaspoon. And it goes. And then you also want to add salt. If you've watched a lot of my other videos, I don't like putting extra salt in a lot of my cooking. But baking, you really need it to balance out the sugar, and it makes your flavors pop. So we're going to add some in here. So I just put a little bit, less than half a teaspoon, just a little bit. And then we're going to mix that up. I'm just reusing my tablespoon. And that's how you have your cake flour, is just adding a bit of cornstarch. So again, if you're going to test a recipe, any cookie recipe actually, it's really good to sub out a little bit of flour for cornstarch, but just don't add extra cornstarch. You need the volume to be the same. So just remember that. I have an extra bowl, I don't know why. So here's our dry ingredients, and we're going to add them to the wet and mix it up. And again, we want these cookies to really hold their shape. So you want your oven ready so you can put them in right away, because once we add liquids to that baking soda, it's going to start activating. And then you don't want to mix it too much. You don't want to mix the dough really smooth just until the flour is into it, because that will help the cookies keep their shape too. So we're going to add it all in. If you had a small bowl for your mixing bowl, you can add it bit by bit, but I don't have the patience for that. So another thing I've learned with cooking too, like this part, if you did with your mixer, the dough would get too smooth. So you really want to do this last mix by hand with a spoon. And it's really good to have like sort of a flattish wooden spoon, not a fork. You just want to get the mixture done really well, and it'll go faster if you're using a flatter spoon and mixer. So we have this looking good. You're going to have a bit of flour on the outside. That's fine, because again, we don't want to mess up the dough by making it too smooth. It's still kind of chunky but sticky. So looks like chocolate chip cookie dough. And now we got to put chocolate chips in. So on a previous video, I was mentioning how I'm trying to buy more ethical brands of chocolate. This one I believe is really good. It's the PC Organic, but I'm going to have to do a bit more research on that. I usually use a brand called Enjoy Life, which actually I'll grab that package for you. And sometimes you can get it on sale. This is a good brand right here, Enjoy Life. But if you are interested in looking up more information about the ethics of chocolate, check out an organization called the Food Empowerment Project, and they have a list of ethical chocolate brands that you can check out. I think they might even have an app. There is an app out there for that, so that you can even scan the barcode. But it's just one of those things that I found out over time and try to change some of my habits. So you're gonna put, these are big chocolate chips. Sometimes I like mini ones. So this is at least a cup left in here, I think. But you want a lot because this does make a lot of dough. But the idea is to make big, fluffy cookies. So again, careful of your mixing, fold it in. You don't want to make the dough smooth. If you're really worried or your house is really warm, you could, like I said at the beginning, put this back in the fridge. But usually it's fine. That's it. So that is our cookie recipe. So again, just a really great recipe. A little bit of a different ingredient with the tahini to get the richness factor. But normal ass cookie dough. You can bake it vegan just like anything else. And one of the best things I always say about vegan baking is you can eat the dough raw because there's no chicken egg in it. Okay, so this is the best part. This one's through. Usually, I used to use actually a teaspoon creator, you know, and make little cookies because I knew they were going to flatten out. This recipe you don't have to. Sorry, I have so much in my mouth. This is the funnest part about this recipe is the cornstarch. Huge, massive cookies. And I see my dad in the chat mentioning Camino. Camino is also a really good chocolate company to buy from. I think they do baking chocolate, chocolate bars. You can get them at Bulk Bar and they're really easy to find. So that's a good one. So you want a gigantic ball of dough and you just shape it into a ball. Don't flatten it. Don't touch it. Just plop it on. And you can put them 3 in a row this big and they will not flatten out on you unless you've made your dough too soft and warm. So like I said, you want it to be nice and dense. So you're going to go, so I made 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. 11 plus another half tray, and they're all gonna be about that size. Look how big they are. It's so awesome. I love a big chocolate chip cookie. Again, I used to make them for sale, so you just do like a same amount each cookie dough. But this, to me, is the perfect size of cookie. Look at that. Huge. Now is my favorite part. Dry my hands. They come into look at this. We've already eaten 2. This is how many cookies you get out of this recipe. Amazing. And so you can see, like, they are going to spread out a little bit, but look at the size of that cookie. That's a snack, like with a nice cup of coffee or tea. Delicious. So I'm going to try to get close to the camera and not squish these other cookies. So here's the, look, it's so nice and moist inside. And these were warm a little while ago. We took them out. And I like it. Sometimes you don't want them to be uncooked too much, but I like a little bit of the middle uncooked because that gets nice and soft. So, yeah, got the softness in the middle. You can see the moistness. Trying to get this to, there we go, look at that. So again, I don't, like, tahini is a very strong flavor when you're eating it in a salad dressing or hummus. But when you have it in this cookie, you're not getting an overwhelming tahini flavor, but you just feel the richness. Like half of these is probably going to start making you feel a little full. And then the other thing I really like about this recipe, the tahini really balances out the sugar. So there is a lot of sugar in this recipe, but when you first bite into the cookie, you're not getting like an overwhelming amount of sugar, which I like. I don't want it to be like too sweet. You have your little melty chocolate chips. I'm following the sensor around my screen. So you got to try this recipe. Later on, I will link the recipe in the comment box below. I believe it was from a website called Eat, Drink, Shrink. I guess it might be a sort of a weight loss recipe website, even though maybe not the greatest for these cookies if you're really trying. Check it out. Easy, delicious, vegan chocolate chip cookies. And remember that you can do make your egg substitute with flax, brown flax. Plus you get the benefits of flax, which is awesome. Lots of omega-3s, and ground flax is really good at preventing prostate cancer. So healthy stuff. So that is it. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all your support always, participating in the chat and all that stuff. To all my regulars, to all my new people, I love you guys. And if you have some time, stick around and watch another YouTube video. It'll help me beat those YouTube algorithms. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, because I really appreciate it and it'll help me out. But that's it. I'm going to try to finish this cookie, and probably it's ruined my dinner as well for the night, but at least I got a delicious cookie out of the deal. Have a great day, guys. See you later. Bye.